and thinking to myself, do you all know who I am? And of course, I'm nobody. But I'm thinking, do you know who I am? Because I am somebody. In fact, I am actually a rock star already. Because in my heart, I was.
Stevie Nicks' enigmatic demeanor, beautiful lyrics, and haunting voice have captivated generations for decades. However, there is a love tale that has been kept secret up until now beneath the flowing scarves and ethereal charm. Her best songs were inspired by this covert affair, which also left a lasting impression on her soul. Who was the man who had so long captured her heart? What hidden feelings are hidden beneath the well-known tune? We learn about the ardor, heartache, and unwavering devotion that characterized her path to. These romances weren't just news stories, ranging from brief liaison to heartbreak splits. They were essential artistic. The dream was more difficult to achieve than they had anticipated, and the city was harsh. Stevie worked as a server and a cleaning girl, cleaning the homes of the same people she aspired to be in order to make ends meet. Ever the perfectionist, Lindsay concentrated on their music in an effort to show that they were more valuable than just another band that didn't work out. She never fully filled the gap left in her heart by losing Joe Walsh. She took the anguish with her and channeled it into songs that spoke of love that was lost too soon. Has someone ever composed a piece for you that wasn't only a ballad? It was a song inspired by the desire that never went away, a love letter to Joe. In retrospect, she has referred to him as the love of her life, the one she never stopped thinking about, and the one who might have been forever. However, life had other ideas, and sometimes the strongest love cannot defeat destiny. Stevie Nicks had a lot of loves in the end. Some caused scars that never went away, while others blazed brilliantly and ended in flame. With Joe Walsh, however, things were different. If only the world had been nicer to them both, she would have done anything to keep him, the one she left behind and the one she never stopped missing. And perhaps the tragedy of love is that, even when two individuals are intended to be together, there are instances when the timing is off, leaving behind only the music, the memory, and the echoes of what could have been. After months of hardship, they finally got their chance. Their album, Buckingham Nicks, which was published in 1973, demonstrated their chemistry in its most unadulterated state. Her ethereal voice, his complex guitar skills, and their harmonies that magically mixed together. But the record didn't do well. No smash songs, no radio spots, no overnight celebrity, just another rejection. However, rejection just increased their hunger rather than breaking them. Then, one phone call in 1974 changed their luck. Lindsay's playing intrigued Mick Fleetwood, who was looking for a new guitarist for Fleetwood Mac. He gave him the position. However, Lindsay had one requirement: Stevie must also attend. Although it was a risky decision, it would alter the course of music history. They then entered a new universe where chaos and success would coexist. When they joined Fleetwood Mac, everything changed immediately. The band, which had previously struggled to remain relevant, suddenly had a new and exciting sound. Together with Lindsay's unadulterated ability, Stevie's voice and presence transported them to realms they could only imagine. The album Rumors followed, which not only shaped their careers but also their relationship, heartbreak, and the agony of a love that was falling apart in front of millions of people. Their romance had already started to deteriorate by the time they were recording Rumors. What they had created was eroded by the demands of celebrity, the never-ending touring, and the conflicts in their creative process. Their passion burned into something nearly unrecognizable during their intense clashes. Nevertheless, among all the turmoil, they produced music that would endure. Dreams, a song that was a farewell and a yearning for the past, was the product of Stevie's sadness. Go Your Own Way, a scathing, flaming anthem that sliced through the atmosphere like a blade, was Lindsay's response. They had the final say in a relationship that was rapidly failing, and they were doing more than simply making music. Song after song, lyric after line, the world watched as they expressed their suffering to one another. Nevertheless, the spark between them never really went out, even after their romance ended. Their previous love changed into something else, a bond too strong to sever, a chemistry that would not go away. Their past was intertwined into every note, every gaze across the stage, and every harmony that still bore the ghost of what once was as they performed together for decades. The suffering, the desire, and the hopes that ended in heartache. Every phase of her romantic life became a generation's theme song. This is the untold love story of Stevie Nicks, a lady who endured terrible loss, loved madly, and created music out of every broken piece that would last a lifetime. Stevie and Lindsay stayed connected through their splits, reunions, and separate endeavors because of music, the past they were unable to leave behind, and the echoes of a love tale captured in chords and melodies. It was always about them, their love, their heartache, their passion, and their war, not just the music. Furthermore, it didn't matter who left whom in the end. It wasn't about the years lost, the arguments, or the betrayals. It was about their joint musical legacy, which would endure long after the final note had faded. Legends were being created overnight in the music scene of Los Angeles in the 1970s, which was a world of smoky bars and never-ending jam sessions. This is where Stevie Nicks met JD in this electrifying setting. Souther. He was already a well-known lyricist who was firmly rooted in the West Coast rock movement, so he wasn't simply another musician. Because he co-wrote several of the Eagles' greatest hits, his name was inscribed on the team's foundation. He had a smooth, elegant, effortlessly cool tone, and for a split second he and Stevie were ensnared in a passionate affair. They clicked right away. They were speaking the same language, the language of lyrics and melodies, of sleepless nights spent analyzing dreams and music. The men Stevie had previously loved were not like Souther. The cycle of instability that Fleetwood Mac thrived on did not apply to him. He was confident, stable, and knowledgeable about the field without becoming overwhelmed by it. He regarded her as an independent artist, as much as a rock star. It was a welcome change for Stevie. Love had been entangled with bitterness and ambition with Lindsay. It had been brief and prohibited with Mick. With JD, however, there was no conflict to wage or scars to deal with. It was easy and straightforward, which in a way made it more riskier. Stevie was exposed to a different side of the music industry by Souther, one that wasn't characterized by conflict and heartache. First and foremost, he was a songwriter who could tell a tale in 3 minutes and leave the audience wanting more. There was no denying his impact on her. He taught her how to write better, how to distill a song to its essence, and let the emotion speak for itself. However, there was a hint of something unsaid beneath the warmth of their romance. For years, Stevie had demonstrated that she was more than just a singer with a well-known band or someone's lover. She was creating something of her own, and she couldn't let the achievement of another man eclipse it. Additionally, even though JD, she couldn't ignore how the industry still viewed women, even though they appreciated her talent. She saw how male musicians, producers, and songwriters gained a level of legitimacy that women had to struggle to achieve. She had a unique voice and was a dreamer. He was a quiet, somber musician with an unmistakable talent. Neither Lindsey Buckingham nor Stevie Nicks realized they were going to start a love story that would influence rock and roll when they first met in high school. She had put in too much effort and made too many sacrifices to run the risk of being someone's sidekick, and she secretly feared that she could lose the spark that had carried her this far if she stayed and allowed herself to sink into the coziness of his world. Despite their intense desire, their romance was short-lived. Their love of music was the one thing that united them, but it also caused them to drift apart. Stepping away from Fleetwood Mac's shadow to demonstrate her independence, Stevie was about to embark on her solo career. She couldn't be defined by another relationship for it to occur. Stevie Nicks had to be her, not J.D. Souther's girlfriend, Stevie Nicks. She then turned to go, not with rage or heartache, but with silent comprehension. She went with her own path, her music, and her independence. Even though their time together was brief, the impression they left on her lasted. Echoes of their connection began to appear in her songs in the years that followed. The wistfulness of their time together, a reflection of love that was lovely but ultimately unsustainable, was carried after the glitter faded. And even if she didn't talk about JD when she discussed songwriting and the lessons she had learned along the road in interviews, it was clear how much she respected him. They didn't have a tragic or treacherous story. In the lengthy and intricate story of Stevie Nicks' life, it was a brief time, a connection that served to remind her of her identity and her destiny rather than to shatter her. And that was plenty in the air. A band could be destroyed, kind of love that never happened. Mick Fleetwood and Stevie Nicks were more than just bandmates. Fame, music, and the wild tornado that was Fleetwood Mac bound them together like family. However, they went too far in the midst of the storm in the late 1970s. There was no plan, not even anticipated. Mick had a spouse. Lindsay had just seen Stevie go. Trust, respect, and a strong creative bond had always been the foundation of their partnership. However, something changed in the midst of the never-ending tours, the late-night recording session, and the emotional devastation caused by their previous loves. Their first meeting was a straightforward moment rather than a flurry. Two youngsters with a passion for music in common. However, a spark ignited between them. The friendship that began evolved into something else, a moment taken. Even they weren't prepared to acknowledge the secret. The affair was never intended to last, but it burned bright and fast. Mick was Fleetwood Mac's leader and the band's unifying factor. With a voice that had enthralled millions, Stevie was the band's biggest star. All they had in common was the skill to make it work. Although the public was unaware of their romance, the strain within the band was undeniable. Lindsay was aware. Christine was aware. John was aware. And despite their best efforts, it did have an impact on the music. The atmosphere of Fleetwood Mac, a band already on the verge of dysfunction, was permeated by the silent animosity, the change in energy, and the unsaid looks. And then it was done, as fast as it had begun. Mick, battling his own issues, put a halt to it. All of this had already caused his marriage to fall apart, and his affair with Stevie just made matters worse. It was yet another heartache, yet another lesson in loss and love for Stevie. However, Mick wasn't the type of man she could stand up for like Lindsay did. He was intelligent, complex, and damaging to himself. She also knew in her heart that he would never be hers. The consequences were unavoidable. The band had previously made it through Stevie and Lindsay's split. Would it make it through this? Somehow, the response was yes. For if Fleetwood Mac had demonstrated anything, it was their ability to withstand anything. All of the hurt, betrayal, and errors were woven into the music that characterized and became a part of their tale. Stevie allowed the pain to seep into the melodies of her songs as she channeled her heartbreak. One of her most eerie and intimate songs, Sarah, was a whisper of a life that eluded her and a love letter to what might have been. There was a sense of melancholy in the word, a yearning for something that would never be genuine enough to cling to. What about Mick? He lost himself in the craziness of being the one who kept the machine going, and in the music, in the complex web of love and heartache that was Fleetwood Mac. His relationship with Stevie became yet another chapter in history. Something unsaid but indisputable. It seemed as though the cosmos had already written their future in harmony because of the way their voices mingled. They drifted away after high school, but destiny had other ideas. In retrospect, Stevie has acknowledged that the affair was a mistake that caused harm to others, and that she regrets it, but she has never denied its reality. Even though their relationship was brief, it was genuine. She transformed it into art, something that would endure forever, just like everything else in her life. Because nothing was ever easy in Fleetwood Mac's world. Pain and passion, love and music, they were inseparable and always intertwined. And that was the greatest blessing and the worst curse for Stevie Nicks. There was an instant chemistry between Stevie Nicks and Don Henley. She was the captivating voice of Fleetwood Mac and the current rock and roll queen. A lyricist with a voice as silky as the California sun, he was the brains behind the Eagles. They were icons, not just rock stars, and the effect is indelible when two forces like that combine. Their bond, which was based on late-night talks, road stories, and a common comprehension of what it was like to live with the burden of celebrity, was electric. They were survivors negotiating the highs and lows of a culture that expected everything of them, not just two musicians falling in love. It was simple for a time. The music, the giggles, the sense of companionship with someone who shared their life experiences. However, in their universe, love was never simply love. There were expectations, egos, tours, and schedules. Then the moment that made all the difference arrived. Stevie was expecting a child. The news slammed into a partnership that had never been established for stability like a tidal wave. At the height of their fame, recording sessions, sold-out performances, and the constant push to become legends dominated their lives. The whirlwind was too big for a newborn. The decision was not simple. Stevie had dedicated her life to defending her autonomy, her music, and her right to live her life as she saw fit. She had always wanted to be a mother, but not in this way, not with an unprepared man, not while she was being pulled in a million different directions by the world. She consequently had to make the most difficult choice of her life. She terminated the pregnancy. She would live with the consequences of her decision for years to come, a wound that would never completely heal. 2 years later, Lindsay needed a singer for Fritz, a psychedelic rock band she was now playing with. He gave Stevie a call. She said yes, without hesitation. The loss of a child wasn't the only thing. She would never know the version of herself that was lost, a life that could have been, nor did Don Henley forget. He then disclosed that they would have given the kid the name Sarah if she had been born. Stevie carried the burden of that moniker into her music, into the heartbreaking words of a song that turned into one of her most intimate admissions. Sarah was more than a tune. It was a ghost, a remembrance of something that had seemed genuine at one point. Things were never the same after that. Not with a blast, but with a slow unraveling. The romance that had blazed so brilliantly began to wane. The unavoidable conclusion was brought on by the demands of celebrity, their hidden anguish, and the knowledge that they were never destined to be together. However, their love's reverberations persisted. According to Stevie, Don Henley was one of her greatest loves and a man who had a unique understanding of her. Her perspective on love, sorrow, and the sacrifices required of women in rock and roll was shaped by their relationship. Love was never easy for Stevie. The melodies that would survive them both were woven with beauty and regret, passion and anguish. She kept the memory of Don Henley with her in every note, phrase and hushed line of a song that still haunts people today, even after she left him and the life they may have had behind. Belladonna wasn't only recording an album when Stevie Nicks entered the studio to record it. She was creating history. Jimmy Iovine stood next to her, helping to shape the sound that would come to define her solo career. He was a visionary and a major player in the music business, not just another producer, and their partnership developed into something far more than just music before either of them realized it. Few people were able to see what Jimmy saw in Stevie. He saw her as a solo artist with a unique voice, not only as a singer, as the lead singer of Fleetwood Mac. He was skilled at pushing her, bringing out the unadulterated passion in her songs, and ensuring that everyone saw her the way he did. And something changed between them throughout the long recording sessions and the late nights spent striving for perfection. The distinction between producer and artist became hazy, and they found themselves in a deeper realm than simply creating an album. They had a deep, passionate relationship based on respect for one another and a mutual love of music. It was complicated. Stevie had never been produced before. She was accustomed to creating music on her own terms and to battling for creative control. Jimmy, however, thrived on control and turning artists into celebrity. He was a perfectionist. Everything changed with that one phone call. Their relationship developed along with the band. Songwriting sessions became love letters, late-night rehearsals became stolen moments, and soon their collaboration went well beyond the stage. Despite their affection for one another, that dynamic was always present. Belladonna became the subject of their romance. Their relationship's intensity permeated every song, note, and lyric. However, the fractures in what they had created also appeared as the music gained popularity. Jimmy was tough and determined to make Stevie the world's most successful solo performer. Stevie was his girlfriend in addition to being his artist, and in ways that neither of them could control, the boundaries between their personal and professional lives began to blur. They started to fall apart due to the demands of the industry, the pressure of their popularity, and their own conflicting personalities. Stevie resisted being dominated, but Jimmy was accustomed to being in command. She had dedicated her professional life to demonstrating that she was more than just a lady who was married to a powerful guy. She was aware that she couldn't lose herself in him, regardless of how much they cared for one another. The split was unavoidable. It was neither spectacular nor explosive. Something that had been doomed from the beginning was slowly coming apart. Jimmy was heartbroken. He had lost not only a girlfriend, but a lady he had poured his heart and soul into, a woman he believed in as an artist. What about Stevie? She left with an album that would go down in history, an album that demonstrated her independence. Their music persisted even after their breakup. Together, they wrote the timeless tunes Edge of 17 and Stop Dragging My Heart Around. Even if their love had not endured, they were testaments to the enchantment they had created. Jimmy would grow to be one of the most influential people in the business, influencing the paths of innumerable artists. Stevie's solo career would go down in history as she continued to rule as the rock and roll queen. Despite the short duration of their romance, its influence was indisputable, because connections that last a lifetime aren't always the most powerful. They are the ones who make an impression and are included into the timeless music. Stevie Nicks has always held the belief that some things in life were predestined and that fate was real. However, grief impairs judgment, and she made a decision in 1983 that even astonished her. She wed Kim Anderson, who was her best friend, Robin's widower. Love wasn't at issue. Fritz served as a training ground where they were exposed to the harsh realities of the music business. They shared stages with musicians that were influencing the counterculture move, opening for rock icons like Janis Joplin and Jefferson Airplane. However, Fritz never made a name for himself, even if it was exciting to perform for large audiences. It had nothing to do with romanticism. It was about grieving, about clinging to anything that would preserve Robin's memory. Robin was not merely a companion. She was the only person who had supported Stevie through all of her hardships and was her soul sister. Stevie was heartbroken to learn that Robin had leukemia, and the pain was indescribable when Robin died, only a few days after giving birth to her son Matthew. Stevie was grieving for more than just her friend. The future they had envisioned was something she was lamenting, the years of unfulfilled memories and laughter. She persuaded herself that marrying Kim was the correct decision when she was grieving. She assured herself that she was filling in and caring for Matthew in the manner that Robin would have desired, but she knew in her heart that it wasn't love. It was desperate. It was a means of escaping the loneliness and calming the voice in her mind that informed her that she had lost something irreplaceable. After just a few months of marriage, reality struck in. This was not how Stevie was supposed to be a wife. Raising a child in a house based on grief was not her destiny. The weight of everything seemed oppressive and stifling. She felt something wasn't right as she glanced at Matthew and Kim. There was no way to get Robin back once she was gone. The divorce was bound to happen. It was characterized by the realization that they had both erred, not by resentment or treachery. Heartbroken, Stevie left. Not just for herself, but also for the memories of Robin, Matthew, and Kim. Although she had made an effort to act morally, love ultimately couldn't be coerced. The fallout was vicious. Stevie lost herself in drugs, fatigue, and the unending sadness she had made a concerted effort to escape. She was burdened by the anguish of losing Robin and the shame of making a decision she didn't fully comprehend. She poured all of her suffering into her song, including Nightbird's heartbreaking tunes and lyrics about ghosts and prematurely lost love. In retrospect, Stevie refers to it as her greatest error. She did, however, take away from that era a lesson that would last a lifetime. The dream quickly started to fall apart due to the industry's brutality and intense competitiveness. Stevie and Lindsay were left standing together when the band broke up in 1972, clinging to their love and their conviction that they were destined for something more. With only a few bucks and a determination to make it work, they packed their life into a dilapidated automobile and headed to Los Angeles. Love, true love, cannot be based on loss, and grief and healing cannot be hurried, not in marriage but in music, in every song, in every hushed phrase, in every moment when she took the stage and opened her heart to the world. She carried Robin's memory with her, because Robin would have preferred a life full of music, love, and the kind of enchantment that never really goes away over a marriage based on grief. Stevie Nicks had experienced many types of love, including destructive, passionate, and short-lived. But his relationship with Joe Walsh was unique. There was more to it than romance or chemistry. There was something more profound and unsaid. He was the man she referred to as her soulmate, her great love, and the only one who truly understood her. Two rock and roll icons who were living fast-paced lives and dealing with the burdens of success and its associated demon first met in the early 1980s. A vital member of the Eagles, Joe Walsh was already a guitar god whose skill was equaled only by his untamed personality. At the peak of her solo career, Stevie was juggling the demands of both her personal and public lives, and they discovered one another in the midst of all. Their love seemed sacred because it was genuine, modest, and not as ostentatious or spectacular as her previous relationships. They shared a chuckle and were able to relate to one another's suffering without having to explain it. In life as much as in music, they were on an equal footing. It was just the two of them while they were together, not the industry, the demands, or the ongoing pressure to be legendary. And for the first time, Stevie thought she had discovered something durable. Even the purest form of love, however, isn't always sufficient. Both of them were struggling with addiction, fatigue, and the effects of years of striving for achievement. They were also being destroyed by the rock and roll lifestyle that had provided them with everything. Somewhere along the line, they began to lose parts of themselves. Highs were followed by crashes, and nights turned into mornings. Joe wanted to save Stevie, and Stevie wanted to save Joe, but they were unable to do it, and that was the most difficult reality of all. She knew how it would end since she could see the path they were taking. The darkness that threatened to devour them both would cause one of them to lose the other, not because of love. Therefore, Stevie decided to leave with a heavier heart than ever before. It was because she loved him too much, not because she had stopped loving him. She was aware that they would ruin one another if they remained together. Joe was aware of it as well, in his own way. Their split was straightforward sadness, without of blame or resentment, the type that never recovers completely. The regret remained with her for years.